freedom to make their most personal decisions without government interference. They rejected the disinformation and fear that had been peddled for years and instead voted to ensure that all Ohioans will have access to the healthcare they need. This is a historic victory for Ohio and for the country. We voted to secure our constitutional right to control our private healthcare decisions. With this victory, we made sure that all Ohioans and generations to come have the rights they deserve and access to abortion care, no matter who is in public office. During the last year, we built an incredible coalition of hundreds of thousands of Ohioans from across the political spectrum. A broad and diverse coalition of organizations, stakeholders, and everyday Ohioans came together to fight for their freedom. It was inspiring to see so many groups, both local, state, and national, work hard on this challenging battle. Advocates, doctors, faith leaders, parents, Republicans, Democrats and independents, progressives and moderates, we did this. It took all of us to stand up to the lies, misinformation, and deception from anti-abortion extremists. We know Ohioans support reproductive freedom and abortion rights, and we know Americans support it too. 3 in 5 Americans support abortion being fully or mostly legal, and our results last night reaffirmed that statistic. This is an important victory for freedom and equality. It should serve as a clear warning to the extremists who want to pass dangerous abortion bans and take away our constitutional rights. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining today. I'm thrilled to have woken up this morning knowing that Ohioans will have access to reproductive care for generations to come. This is a major win, and I am so proud of our Ohioans, our coalition, and our incredible campaign team. This past year, we built a diverse team who made this victory possible, even in the face of deception, misinformation, and never-ending lies. Anti-abortion politicians and activists in Ohio spent the past year changing the rules, manipulating the system, and abusing their authority to try to stack the deck against us. But we were able to overcome these challenges together because Ohioans value reproductive freedom, support abortion rights, and saw through the anti-abortion extremist lies. Ohioans sent a message to the nation last night. Americans support abortion rights and will turn out to vote to protect these rights. Voters last night made it clear that this is not a partisan issue. Ohioans across the political spectrum don't want government involved in their personal healthcare decisions. The amendment outperformed any candidate on the ballot in Ohio in recent history, further proving this point. A lot of people have been saying abortion always wins, and it's true. But it's also true that winning takes a lot of hard work. We overcame a campaign of deception and interference from politicians and the state government like no other. From the governor to the Secretary of State to the Attorney General to the legislator, politicians abused their authority and public offices to undermine the Reproductive Rights Amendment and its prospects of passing at every step in the electoral process in Ohio. The Secretary of State rewrote the ballot language to deceive voters. He also quietly purged voters from the rolls in September. The governor appeared in television ads against Issue 1 and misled voters about the extreme ban he signed. The Attorney General released false and politically motivated legal statements, and official government websites shared misinformation about Issue 1. Not only that, they put another Issue 1 on the ballot in August, setting up a confusing vote on Issue 1 twice in 1 year, requiring many voters to switch from a no vote to a yes vote. So let's be clear. Anti-abortion politicians abused their power at every level of government to block this amendment. But together, we overcame these challenges. This is a huge win. We must continue to fight for freedom and defend democracy. This will include efforts to stop Ohio's extreme abortion ban once and for all, end the gerrymandering that enables politicians to pass unpopular abortion bans, defend voting rights to ensure fair representation, and expose corruption in state government. So today we will celebrate this critical victory, and tomorrow this amazing coalition will keep fighting for the rights of Ohioans and all Americans. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. At this time, we'll take questions from the press. In order to have your question recognized, use the raised hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you need help with that, it's 2023. And I'll unmute you as you raise your hand. Amy Littlefield, you're free to go.
Good morning and huge congratulations to the whole team. What a victory. Amy Littlefield with The Nation. I wanted to ask about the viability caveat that was in the initiative. Is there a plan for expanding abortion access to folks who are post-viability? And what do you think the resounding success of this measure says about the need to include caveats around that issue in the future? Is this a vindication of including viability language in ballot initiatives like this? Or does the margin of victory show that compromises like this may not be necessary even in supposed red states like Ohio?
Lauren Lovell, do you want to go ahead?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Our language is really meant to bring back common sense to reproductive health care. And the reality is that it was written with patients in mind. So people who need care post-viability will be able to receive that care in the state of Ohio because when those pregnancies are ended, it is because of severe issues with health and protecting the life of the pregnant person and or a fatal fetal anomaly. And like these situations are different and unique, and doctors need to be able to make the decision in the room, in the hospital, frankly, with their patient. And this is a decision that will be made by patients and doctors and not by the government. So our language was and does protect Ohioans' healthcare in the way that abortion care and pregnancy in general needs to be taken care of, and just not part of like the political rhetoric.
Thank you both. We'll go next to Andrew Tobias. Andrew, you're good to go.
Hi, thanks for letting me ask the question. I know that Veronica mentioned the way that you see that the government officials here kind of, abuse their power to try to push to defeat issue 1. I'm wondering if you saw anything here from like a rhetoric standpoint from the anti-abortion side that you thought was unique to Ohio, and what you thought that the passage of issue 1 says about, that side's attempts to try to, to win in light of all these ballot issues that we expect are going to be coming up next year.
I can answer that. I think what's unique to Ohio is, as I said, it was sort of every piece of the government and every piece of every sort of statewide elected official and state legislator. They used all the tools at their disposal to spread misinformation. And I think what this shows is that Ohioans did not believe that misinformation, and they understood what issue 1 stood for. And they made it very clear last night that they understood what it stood for and believe that abortion should be legal in the state.
Thank you.
To follow up on that, they tried to say like you may support abortion rights, but this goes too far, and that's kind of appealing to a swath of people that might be inclined to vote for things like this. So do you think that the failure shows whether that kind of thing is effective?
Sorry, can you say that again? I didn't fully hear it.
Yeah, they basically said if you support abortion rights, you still shouldn't vote for this because it goes too far. So they're basically trying to reach to sort of the people, I guess, who are sort of quote unquote on the middle on this. And do you think that what do you think that the results say about trying to do things like that as we look forward to all these elections next year?
Yeah, I think the results show that did not work, and that their efforts to confuse voters did not work. I mean, we saw DeWine earlier this month tried to sort of walk back his stance on this issue because he saw the writing on the wall. It's very clear that it did not work.
Thanks, Andrew. We'll go next to Jesse Ballmer. Jesse, you're good to go.
Hi, thank you. My question is just like from a practical standpoint, there are a number of bans and restrictions in Ohio law. What's kind of the strategy for tackling those at the court level? Like, how do you decide which law to go after first, and what's the strategy for doing that?
Yes, of course. Lauren, you want to go ahead?
Absolutely. We do have a strategy, of course, making sure that the dangerous 6-week ban does not go into effect, and that, you know, the voters, Ohio voters spoke yesterday, and it is very important that, you know, we see the new constitution be upheld here in Ohio, so that Ohioans have the access to abortion care that they deserve and that they have definitively said they want to have. So all of us who have been continuing to, you know, fight litigation and advocacy and policy will continue to work together to ensure that, you know, the restrictions and bans that are currently in place are no longer in place.
Thanks, Lauren. We'll go now to Julie Carr-Smith. Julie, you should be good to go.
Okay, hi guys. My question was on the percentages. It looks like maybe 55-44, at least when I went to bed last night. That's a little less than what polling would show heading in. Do you think that the campaign on the other side, that some of their messaging around this being an anti-parent, opening the door to gender surgeries, and all the late term abortion rhetoric we heard toward the end, do you think that that impacted the result?
Lauren, you want to go ahead?
I think what we saw was a definitive victory for abortion access, that the majority of Ohioans support abortion access and turned out to vote to ensure that issue 1 passed. And, you know, this is a solid majority of Ohio voters that have come together to speak, so we feel really confident that now this is the law of the land and needs to be upheld.
I also would just add that we're actually inching closer to 57, which is just another testament that as the votes continue to come in, Ohioans are making their voices heard.
Across the state, in many counties, it's clearly not a partisan issue. This is for all Ohioans to protect our personal medical decisions.
Thank
Thanks.
you both. We'll go to Susan Tebben next. Susan, you should be good to go.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having this so early after a late night. I just wanted to ask your reactions to legislative leaders that have said we're basically going to have a revolving door to try to replace and repeal or replace this measure. What's your reaction to that, and what do you think is your next steps in terms of that?
Lauren, do you want to go first?
While it is not surprising, it is very disappointing to continue to hear from legislators, from our representatives, saying, you know, boldly that they're not going to listen to their constituents and that they're not going to listen to the majority of Ohioans who have said clearly they do not want an abortion ban. They want to be able to make their own personal medical decisions, and they want to stop. And they did stop government interference. So we'll continue to fight with all Ohioans to continue to protect this access, but our representatives should be listening to us.
I would also add, as our lovely Kelly Copeland says from Pro-Choice Ohio, we have been fighting this 6-week ban in Ohio since 2011. Part of the reason that this coalition was successful is because it is a coalition of reproductive rights organizations and activists in the state who have been doing this work, and they will not stop after today.
Thank you both. Grace Panetta, you're up next. You should be good to go now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this morning. Obviously, you all are focused on Ohio and your victory here. There are a lot of other advocates in other states who are looking at this result with great interest. What would be your advice to advocates in places like Missouri, like Florida, who are trying to get a similar measure on the ballot? And what do you think they can learn from you all?
Veronica, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a couple of pieces, as I just said, a very broad coalition, being able to build support from the bottom up, grassroots support is incredibly important. Folks need to feel like this is a campaign that represents their state and their values. We worked very hard to talk to Ohioans in a way that made sense to them, that they saw themselves in our campaign. They understood the struggles that folks have faced in the state, and it became real to them. I think that's an extremely important piece of this, being able to sort of build that coalition. And I know that those states have very broad coalitions and groups who have been doing this work for many years, and to be able to bring them together in one successful campaign is a challenge, but a wonderful opportunity and beautiful thing when it is executed well.
Thanks, Veronica. We'll go next to Sarah Salagi. Sarah, you should be unmuted now.
Hi there, it's Sarah Salagi with Channel 4 in Columbus. Question I had is, now with issue 1 passed, what barriers to access do you see as the most prevalent, specifically thinking about, whether that be laws or just logistical issues? And how are you planning to move forward in increasing access to abortion across the state? I think specifically for rural Ohioans or places where there may not be clinics nearby.
Lauren, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. We have had over 31 abortion bans and restrictions that have been passed since 2011. And so there is a lot of work to be done to undo those restrictions and ensure that Ohioans get the access to abortion care and reproductive health care that they deserve. So we'll continue to work in coalition, in partnership, and across the state to ensure that we do expand access. We know that we have a lot of work, and we're grateful and really excited and energized to be able to focus on providing healthcare and making sure that more access is possible for Ohioans.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Morgan Trow, do you want to go next? You should be unmuted.
Hi, Morgan Trow here with News 5 Cleveland and WCPO in Cincinnati. So obviously with last night, this is kind of a follow-up on somebody's earlier question. The Republicans, the other side is saying, well, we're still going to challenge this in court. We're going to be, potentially putting up a repeal. Do you think that a challenge in court has any standing due to the constitutional amendment? Do you think that they could actually be successful?
Lauren, go right ahead.
We're prepared for all eventualities and to be in the fight, but this is a definitive constitutional amendment. Ohio voters have spoken and have clearly said that they believe that abortion is legal. It is a constitutional right and should be upheld by our judges and our lawmakers. So we will hold them to that standard.
Thanks, Lauren. We'll go next to David Winter. David, you're unmuted.
Thank you. I take it you can hear me right now?
We do.
Okay, great. David Winter with WKRC, CBS Cincinnati. First of all, 2 quick questions. With this constitutional amendment, doesn't that mean that you can now drop any challenges you have to current laws?
The judges that our cases are in front of will need to drop the cases or make decisions based on the amendment. So that is the process that we expect to move forward.
Okay. And then secondly, what do you think this says to the country in reference to abortion rights? Someone had asked earlier something similar, but do you think this sends a strong message?
Yeah, Veronica, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. I think this sends a very strong message that, we worked to, this was a very sort of a very simple thing about whether there should be a government ban on abortion in Ohio. And it's, as we've said, this is a winning issue. And yeah, I do think it sends a message across the country.
We are getting
Sorry, I did have one more follow-up real quick. In reference to the way that this amendment is written, viability, that still seems to leave some question as to when someone can get an abortion.
Lauren, do you want to go first?
The vast majority of abortions happen before viability, and that it is absolutely going to continue. And for pregnancies that have to be ended post viability, those decisions need to be made by patients and their providers, and those are happening in hospitals. And what issue 1 does is it ensures that those decisions are based on medical best care and what the patient needs, and not about political rhetoric or decisions from lawmakers in Columbus. So this is about healthcare and ensuring that people are getting the healthcare that they need.
Thank you, David. We will go next to Tom Bosco. Tom, you are good to go.
Thank you, guys. Tom Bosco with ABC6 in Columbus. I can't ask you to get in the minds of the other side, but I'm going to ask you to get in the minds of the other side, I guess. National polling is about 60-40. People want abortion rights. Now, Ohio is the 7th state that's passed this, going 7 for 7. The other side has not gotten any wins on this, really. Tell me why you think they persist in this position when obviously it's the will of the people that they want access to abortion.
Lauren, go ahead.
As you said, it is the will of the people. The majority of Americans support abortion access, and the Ohioans spoke yesterday. The majority of Ohioans support abortion access, and they believe that abortion is personal medical decision that should be left to the pregnant person and their family. And that is what should be legal. That's we're talking about people's rights and decisions that we can't get in people's shoes. So I certainly can't get in the shoes or the minds of our opposition, but our coalition has worked for a very long time to connect patients, providers, community members, voters with their representatives to share their personal stories and to share why access to abortion is so important. And all I can say is that I hope that they listen. I hope they listen to the millions of Ohio voters who spoke yesterday and choose to protect our personal medical decisions and stop fighting their constituents.
Thanks, Lauren. Jim Province, you are up next. You should be good to go, sir. We don't hear you, Jim.
You hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. When does the amendment take effect formally? And in practice, prior to a judge actually striking down a current law, what rights will women have in Ohio when it comes to abortion? How will this play out? How will doctors react before a judicial decision comes down that could take potentially years?
Lauren, do you want to go first?
Right now, the extreme abortion ban is held up in court indefinitely until either the Ohio Supreme Court sends it back to the judge so that they can rule. So we anticipate that process moving forward, as well as future litigation that will hopefully undo the medically unnecessary and unpopular restrictions and bans that we have. So we right now, Ohioans have access to abortion up to 22 weeks. And that is still the law in Ohio, and that has now been reinforced with issue 1. So patients and providers can continue to provide care as they have been.
But that is just one law. I mean, we've also got the essentially the 22-week ban that's still out there. You have various laws out there affecting timing, and procedures. So are those going to be enforced in the meantime?
Yes.
And I think in the interest of time, Jim, we can obviously get back to you with more detail on this if you need. I did want to make sure that we got our last couple questions in. Laura, with the plain dealer, you should be able to unmute now. We don't hear you, Laura.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. In addition
No
to
worries, we hear you now.
In addition to the heartbeat law, what are some of the other priorities of these dozens upon dozens of abortion restrictions? Because you can't do everything at once. What are some of the other laws that you feel like are harmful the most and that you have to get off the books, the quickest? Can you name some of those?
We are not sharing our legal strategy right now, but all medically unnecessary restrictions should be removed, and we know that Ohio voters spoke loud and clear that abortion is a personal medical decision that should be up to the patient and their family and not the government. So we will work really hard to ensure that these restrictions go away, and once we start that process, we'll be able to talk about it more. Thank you.
And thanks everyone for taking the time this morning. Those were all of the questions for which people raised their hands or typed in the chat. A recording of this can be sent around upon request. Email the OUR press account for that recording, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.